Here's what I'm not going to do, because I know our county employees and I like them. I believe that every one of them has the intention of doing the best job that they can with the resources that we provide them. It's my job as commissioner to represent them also and to give them the tools that they need to do the job to take care of you. I saw a hand over here. Yes, sir.
So it's just a coincidence that I'm here, but I live down in off 202, opposite of Pine Brook Inn.
Okay.
And every January for the last 3 years, I've walked into the Road and Bridge office when I was over there in Anderson, and I said, you know, that culvert that's got that hole in it, still got that hole in it. And because that culvert filled up with road material, the water no longer drains through it. I live on Plantersville Road, which is a private road. It's supposed to be 60 feet wide, with people encroaching their fences out into the middle of the road. And the sheriff of this county tells me that it's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. I can't do anything about it. You're gonna have to go hire an attorney. Anyway, I'm venting. 202 right there on that end, I can't tell you how many loads of road base they have put into that road. And it's like the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I explained to them, I'm speaking to the lady named Bobby that sat behind the desk. My name's Bobby. So me and Bobby, we're like-minded. And I say, look at that culvert in place. And if they would come out there and clean out the ditch, and there's no fence along that ditch, you could stop putting road base in. Because then the water would run down the ditch, crown or no crown. I'm in a different situation. But what are you going to do as a commissioner when I've been down there every January for the past 3 years, and I kind of like to try and think that I'm not a squeaky wheel?
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and look at what you're talking about, so that I can see for myself and identify what it is that you see as a deficiency in that road right there. And then I'm going to go to Harry Walker and say, Harry, when you got a free moment, can you go with me and let's go look at this? And I'm going to have Harry look at it and I'll say, Harry, you know, Mr. Kaiser has talked to me about this. What are we doing about this and what can we do about it? And then I come back to you and I say, okay, I've talked with Harry, I've looked at it, he's looked at it, here's what Harry suggests. And we go from there. That's how we do it. But what I do is I get engaged. I get engaged on your behalf, I get engaged on Harry's behalf, and I try to be the intermediary to make something work that's in your best interest and within the county budget.
But do I, as a citizen of this county, do I have to go to Bobby at the desk at the Road and Bridge? Because it took me a little while to figure that out, because I've never lived in the country and didn't know how things got done. I lived in the city and everything got done. But do I have to?
You'll call Bobby first. You'll call Bobby. If you have a road issue, that's the way
I don't want to hit the judge.
No, it does. That's Joe's not responsible for day-to-day operations like that. When you have an issue with Road and Bridge,
Exactly.
You call Bobby, you call Pat.
Who's holding these people accountable?
You call them, and then whenever you feel like you haven't received a satisfactory response, you can always call me as your commissioner. And the minute I get a phone call from commissioner, I'm going to get involved and I'm going to get engaged. And I'm going to continue to follow up and pursue a solution until we get a solution. That's who I am. Would you get me involved, something's going to happen. I never quit. My parents will tell you I'm stubborn to an extreme. I will never quit. Don't tell him that, okay?
What's next on your list?
Can we, for the next subject?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Can we move on?
Yes. We're running out of time.
Huh? Move on. You want to jump in? Okay. One more question, real quick. Okay. Well, go ahead.
So I've been here 6 years. I work for 17 engineers. I work for 13 different commercial developers, and I work with 45 private developers. I work within that group. I've been in the restaurant business, but residential, commercial. I live here for a reason because my son's in the school district, and as a single parent, he's on a roll and he's where he needs to be. So I sit, watch, and listen to every person. The developers started doing this 5 years ago when whatever commissioner's in down here now was talking about this plan and the development parts of them. So I listen to all these meetings within hundreds and hundreds of offices, and this is what I've been doing for the last 15 years. So this is my first one to come interact with, and I am in an area, Waller, Grimes, Harris, I've dealt with all of them, from the police departments to the commissioners to the road and bridges. Road and bridges are a disaster.
So what's your question for me?
My question is, if you're going to be elected, what's your plan? A 4-year plan that's not going to carry on because the developers are going to take us over within the next 3 years as far as their protocol is, and the buyers are already at 70% capacity in this county, which means I'm here 5 more years. I can't find a plan anywhere in Grimes County with the current commissioner of road and bridges because I can't get a phone call back because of what I do for these developers, which is normal.
So
My
here's my
question is, do you have anything in the plan that supports these people asking about the funding? You talk about the funding, and it's slim to none. You know, I see TxDOT, I know what they do, I know the procedures on the roads, the development.
The question is for
The
me,
question is,
right?
if you have an in-place deal now that procures funds, let's bring up the dump station on Clark Road. You have 63 companies that
We can't talk on that.
no, but I can make a statement on behalf of all the people that own property along with me. I own 17 acres out there. So, is your plan gonna enact anything towards the private companies that utilize the roads that destroy it manually, not by Mother Nature, not by a flood anywhere out here, but they tear them up with a truck that's illegal to begin with? Grimes County don't do anything. I know everybody at Grimes County PD, the Texas Department of Transportation.
Can you give me a second to answer your question,
Do you have a plan
please?
that's going to put a bond against these individuals like all the surrounding counties do? Like Gideon, Troy has one. Do we have one? And is that one you're gonna go and push on that won't take 4 years to develop? That's what I wanna know for all of us.
The transportation plan that I'm proposing, when we got down to talking about the Clark Road community, would have to address that.
Yeah.
Because it's an issue for the folks that live down there. And I drive Clark Road, and you're right, those trucks, they beat that road up. And so yes, we would have to talk about that.
Right.
If we're gonna reach a solution for keeping Clark Road maintained, it has to be a part of the conversation. But you threw a whole lot into that statement.
I've been watching for 5 years, I'm very busy.
My plan, first of all, I have to be elected.
Yeah.
I have to run for election in 4 years after that. If you want my plan to be beyond 4 years, you'll have to elect me again in 4 years. At that point, it's an 8-year plan. If I run again after that, you won't keep it. It'll be a 12-year plan. The planning goes on as an evolving process as long as you've got someone working on making that plan represent the constituents of Precinct 2. It never stops. But we don't have one right now that's community-based with this community input that I'm talking about, where you would be invaluable in taking part in that first conversation and talking about Clark Road.
Right.
So that's where we start with that conversation. Did you want to talk here, Joe? Because there was a lot. That's why
I'm just going to make the comment that we do indeed, when we have developments or commercial developments, we cause those businesses to get road use permits, and they have weight limits on them, and if they violate those road use permits, then they are paying for the repairs. And we have collected a fair amount of money from contracting companies that do that. And then back on the subdivisions, those developers, they're required to have a bond. It's a significant bond, and we don't release any of that bond until, and I don't want to misquote, but I believe it's that they have to have at least 50% occupancy of that development before we release any portion of that bond money, and they've got to be much further down the road on completion. That way because the roads are all great when they put them in, but you put 500 houses in there and run 10,000 cement trucks and 2,000 dump trucks and everything else, those roads, by the time they've sold that subdivision out, then they turn and look at us, the landowners looking at us, hey, we need to repave these roads. Well, we're not doing that anymore because we're keeping that bond money if it does not meet our criteria.
So there you kind of have the answer to your question. All right, the county works towards that within this transportation plan. for that area, we will address it even more. We're at 8 o'clock, folks. This meeting is scheduled in at 9, and we've got more ground to cover. So we could talk about roads all night long, but I couldn't talk about the other things and why I'm running. So if y'all don't mind, we're gonna move on. I wanna leave some time at the end of the meeting to where